Welcome to Easy Classic Stories. This is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, a novel by William Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet is a famous story by William Shakespeare. It's about two young people who fall in love. Their families don't like each other, which makes their love difficult. The story is very popular and has been enjoyed by many people for a long time. It has been made into movies and plays. People love it because it talks about strong feelings like love and sadness. It's one of Shakespeare's most successful stories. Now listen carefully to the story. At the end, we'll have an exercise on key events to help test your understanding. In the city of Verona, Italy, two powerful families, the Montagues and the Capulets, had a long-standing feud. No one remembered why they started fighting, but everyone knew they didn't like each other. One sunny morning, servants from both families started arguing in the street. The argument quickly turned into a fight, with more people joining in. Benvolio, a Montague and Romeo's cousin, tried to stop the fight. But Tybalt, a Capulet and Juliet's cousin, wanted to keep fighting. Just as they were about to start a bigger fight, the Prince of Verona arrived. The prince was very angry. He shouted, "If you fight again, you will be punished severely." The families listened and stopped fighting. Later that day, Lord Capulet decided to have a big party at his house. He wanted to invite all his friends and family. He also wanted his daughter Juliet to meet a nice man named Paris. Paris wanted to marry Juliet, and Lord Capulet thought it was a good idea. Meanwhile, Romeo, a Montague, was feeling sad. He was in love with a girl named Rosaline, but she didn't love him back. His friends Benvolio and Mercutio wanted to cheer him up. They heard about the Capulet party and decided to go, even though they weren't invited. They wore masks to hide their faces so the Capulets wouldn't recognize them. At the party there was music, dancing, and lots of food. Everyone was having a good time. Romeo saw a beautiful girl across the room. He asked a servant, "Who is that lovely girl?" The servant replied, "That is Juliet, the daughter of Lord Capulet." Romeo was amazed by Juliet's beauty. He forgot all about Rosaline. He walked up to Juliet and said, "If I touch your hand, it's like a holy shrine. My lips are ready to kiss and smooth that touch." Juliet smiled and said, "You do wrong to your hand. My hand is yours." They danced together and fell in love at first sight. But little did they know, their love would face many challenges because of the feud between their families. After the party, Romeo couldn't stop thinking about Juliet. He had never felt this way about anyone before. He decided he had to see her again. That night, he went to the Capulets' garden, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. Juliet was on her balcony, looking up at the stars. She was thinking about Romeo too. She said to herself, "O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name. Or if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet." Romeo, hiding in the garden, heard her words. He stepped out of the shadows and said, "I take thee at thy word. Call me but love, and I'll be new baptized. Henceforth I never will be Romeo." Juliet was surprised to see him. She said, "How camest thou hither, tell me, and wherefore? The orchard walls are high and hard to climb, and the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen find thee here." Romeo replied, With love's light wings did I o'erperch these walls, for stony limits cannot hold love out, and what love can do that dares love attempt? They talked more, and their love grew stronger. They decided they wanted to be together forever. Romeo promised to marry Juliet the next day. He said, "I'll go to Friar Lawrence, a wise and holy man. He will marry us in secret." Juliet agreed, and they said goodnight with a kiss. Romeo left the garden, feeling happier than he had ever been. The next morning, Romeo went to see Friar Lawrence. He told the friar about his love for Juliet and their plan to marry. Friar Lawrence was surprised but agreed to help them. He hoped that their marriage might end the feud between the Montagues and the Capulets. Later that day, Romeo and Juliet met at Friar Lawrence's cell. The friar married them in a secret ceremony. Juliet's nurse was the only other person there. They were so happy to be husband and wife. After their secret wedding, Romeo and Juliet were very happy. They knew they had to keep their marriage a secret from their families, but they hoped that one day their love would bring peace between the Montagues and the Capulets. Meanwhile, Tybalt, Juliet's cousin, was still angry about the party. He wanted to fight Romeo because Romeo had come to the Capulet party without an invitation. Tybalt didn't know about Romeo and Juliet's secret marriage. One day, Tybalt saw Romeo and his friends Benvolio and Mercutio walking in the street. Tybalt challenged Romeo to a fight, but Romeo didn't want to fight Tybalt because he was now Juliet's husband. Romeo said, "Tybalt, I love you more than you can imagine. I will not fight you." Tybalt was surprised and angry. He said, "You are a coward, Romeo." Mercutio, Romeo's friend, was offended by Tybalt's words. He said, "Tybalt, you are a troublemaker." They started to fight. Romeo tried to stop them, but it was too late. Tybalt stabbed Mercutio and Mercutio died. Romeo was very sad and angry. He said, "Tybalt, you have killed my friend. Now I will fight you." Romeo and Tybalt fought, and Romeo killed Tybalt. People from both families saw the fight and were very upset. The Prince of Verona arrived and said, "Romeo, you have killed Tybalt. You must leave Verona forever." Romeo was shocked. He said, "But I am married to Juliet. I cannot leave her." The prince said, "You must go. If you stay, you will be punished severely." Juliet's nurse came to her with bad news. The nurse said, "Juliet, Romeo killed Tybalt and now he is banished from Verona. He had to leave." Juliet was shocked. She said, "Why did this happen? I cannot live without Romeo." The nurse tried to comfort her, but Juliet was very upset. That night, Romeo secretly came back to Verona to see Juliet. He climbed into her balcony. Juliet was very happy to see him. She said, "Romeo, you came back." Romeo said, "I had to see you before I go to Mantua. I love you so much." They spent the night together, talking and crying. They knew they had to say goodbye again. In the morning, Romeo left for Mantua. Juliet watched him go, feeling very sad. Meanwhile, Lord Capulet was worried about Juliet. He thought she was sad because of Tybalt's death. He decided to cheer her up by planning her wedding to Paris. He said, "Juliet, you will marry Paris in 3 days." Juliet was shocked. She said, "Father, I cannot marry Paris. I am already married to Romeo." But Lord Capulet did not know about her secret marriage. He said, "You will marry Paris, and that is final." She loved Romeo and did not want to marry Paris. She went to see Friar Lawrence. She was very upset and did not know what to do. She said, "Friar Lawrence, my father wants me to marry Paris, but I am already married to Romeo. Please help me." Friar Lawrence was worried but had an idea. He said, "Juliet, I have a plan. I will give you a special drink. It will make you look like you are dead for 42 hours. During that time, I will send a message to Romeo in Mantua. He will come back to Verona and take you away. When you wake up, you will be with Romeo." Juliet agreed to the plan. She said, "Thank you, Friar Lawrence, I will do as you say." The friar gave her the special drink and told her to take it that night. That night, Juliet drank the special drink. She lay down on her bed and soon looked like she was dead. The next morning, the nurse found Juliet and thought she was really dead. She told Lord and Lady Capulet the sad news. Everyone was very sad. Lord Capulet said, "My dear Juliet is dead." Lady Capulet cried, "Our beautiful daughter is gone." They prepared for Juliet's funeral and put her in the Capulet tomb. Meanwhile, Friar Lawrence sent a message to Romeo in Mantua. He wrote a letter explaining the plan and sent it with a friend named Friar John. But Friar John got sick on the way to Mantua and could not deliver the letter. Romeo did not know about the plan. He thought Juliet was really dead. His friend Balthazar came from Verona and told him the sad news. Romeo was heartbroken. He said, "Juliet is dead. I cannot live without her." Romeo was very sad because he thought Juliet was dead. He decided he wanted to die too, so he could be with Juliet forever. He went to an apothecary, a person who sells medicines, and bought a strong poison. Romeo said to the apothecary, "Give me some poison, I need it to end my sadness." The apothecary gave him the poison, and Romeo paid him with gold. Romeo travelled back to Verona as fast as he could. He went straight to the Capulet tomb where Juliet was laid to rest. He wanted to see her one last time and say goodbye. At the tomb, Romeo saw Paris, the man who wanted to marry Juliet. Paris was there to put flowers on Juliet's grave. He saw Romeo and thought he was there to cause trouble. Paris said, "Romeo, why are you here? You are banished from Verona." Romeo said, "Paris, I came to see Juliet one last time. Please leave me alone." But Paris did not listen. He tried to stop Romeo, so they fought. Romeo did not want to fight, but Paris attacked him. In the end, Romeo killed Paris. Romeo went into the tomb and saw Juliet. He thought she was really dead. He said, "Juliet, my love, I came to be with you forever." He kissed her and then drank the poison. Just as Romeo drank the poison, Friar Lawrence arrived at the tomb. He saw Romeo and said, "Romeo, what have you done?" But it was too late. Romeo died next to Juliet. A few moments later, Juliet woke up from the special drink. She saw Romeo dead beside her. She was very shocked and sad. She said, "Romeo, my love, why did you die? I cannot live without you." Juliet saw the empty poison bottle and understood what Romeo had done. She took Romeo's dagger and said, "I will join you, my love." She stabbed herself and died next to Romeo. After Juliet stabbed herself, Friar Lawrence was very sad. He said, "I tried to help them, but it ended in tragedy." He looked at Romeo and Juliet, who were now both dead. Soon, other people arrived at the tomb. Lord Montague, Romeo's father, came with Lord Capulet, Juliet's father. The Prince of Verona also came. They all saw Romeo and Juliet dead together. The prince said, "What a sad sight! Why did this happen?" Friar Lawrence explained everything. He told them about the secret marriage and the plan that went wrong. He said, Romeo and Juliet loved each other very much. Their love was true, but it ended in tragedy. Lord Montague and Lord Capulet were very sad. They realized that their fight had caused this tragedy. Lord Montague said, "I lost my son because of our fight." Lord Capulet said, "I lost my daughter because of our fight." The prince said, "This is a lesson for all of us. We must end our fights and live in peace." Lord Montague and Lord Capulet agreed. They shook hands and promised to end their long feud. Everyone was very sad, but they learned an important lesson. Love is stronger than hate, and fighting only causes pain. They promised to remember Romeo and Juliet and to live in peace. Great job sticking with the story all the way to the end. It's time to review the key ideas with a fun multiple-choice quiz. You'll find the answers in the comments section. Take your time with the questions, and don't forget to leave a comment below to let us know if you enjoyed the story. Your feedback helps us improve. If you liked it, show your support by hitting the like button. It really makes our day. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories. Thank you so much for being with us.